Hi everyone, this is Kia coming to you from Venice, California. Excited today to share about renewal and focus. There's a bunch of things that I want to cover. It feels so appropriate that here in this new year we look at what is required in our lives and in our placing of attention in order to create deep levels of renewal and how to focus the mind in a way that's really impactful and can create the kind of change that we're all looking for. So I'm going to just go over a few of the things that I'll be covering here tonight, and I can already see a few great, wonderful friends and yogis here. Ariadna, Rui, from Hong Kong, Ariadna, lovely, and Doreen from Minnesota, Maya, hi Maya, Katie from Western Australia, you guys rock, Daphne March, hi Daphne from Newfoundland. Wow, this is very exciting to see you all here. Tommy and I, my husband and I, have been back in the Venice area for about 2 weeks, and we're house hunting and we're bouncing around from one Airbnb to another. It's a whole process. I'm learning a lot. Wow, now I can see some of your faces of those of you. Hi, Allison. So good that you're on here. Stephanie, Chelsea. Hi, Chelsea. Christy. Hi, Christy Borden. Nice to see you here. Wow, and Joshua from Tennessee, yay, gosh, St. Louis, Chelsea there, Chelsea, wonderful. All right, so here's a little sort of roundup of where we're going tonight. So we're focusing on renewal on the physical, emotional, and mental levels. I'm going to cover, yogic perspectives on that, but also this kind of cutting edge scientific evidence that, of course, it's corroborating what we know as yogis, but it's really empowering when you start to see the same information but coming from a totally different field. So we'll be looking at yogic techniques and some scientific techniques for that. We'll be looking at the importance of changing your environment for periods of time in order to start to change some of the patterning of the brain and ways that can be helpful. I'm going to take you through a process that will really help you to uncover where you might be stuck. And so, yeah, we'll flow with that. And I'll be taking questions at the end as well. So welcome, you guys. I'm so glad that you're here with me tonight. I'm going to sort of officially start with sharing a story, a very profound time that I've had in the last few weeks. Many of you know that my beloved mother actually transitioned from this earthly plane to another on the 29th of December. I had the great privilege of sitting with her, holding her hand as she transitioned. Tommy was on the other side. He was witnessing her, and I was chanting a mantra that Pandajit had so generously blessed me with that I could take and chant before she was transitioning and while she was transitioning. And I have to say, it was one of the most profound experiences of my life. And in this subject of renewal, I mean, is there, birth and death? In many ways, they're the two great renewals. The soul comes in and the soul transitions on. The whole time after she transitioned, this space of pure love opened up. I experienced the deep love that she is, that she was, and it felt like a transcendent love. It was more than earthly, although her earthly love was fierce and incredible too. And that state continued for a few hours. It was probably the most exalted, sounds strange, right, when somebody passes, but an exalted, transcendent state. Hugely aware of the loss, but hugely present with what a soul is, you could say, that deep love of the soul. So that was precious. I sat there for hours afterwards and I just watched the energy slowly fade and the body slowly get colder. Sat, just held her hand the whole time, sensed the transitioning that was happening. And then, the rest of the family arrived and we went into the grieving process. The loss of the familiar one, the loss particularly of the mother, the one who gave birth to us. And then what unfolded after that, which I want to talk about tonight because it's so very important, was some family dynamics that happened because of the hole that was left from her transition, and that were a reflection of excuse me, they were a reflection of areas of her life that were unexamined. And so the energy of that unexamined life living on through those who were left behind, and how unfortunate the acting of that karmic energy can be. And I say that simply to say, I think we're all aware that here we are, these souls on this planet Earth, we're doing the best we can with the tools that we have to live, to grow, to keep in this process of renewal. And sometimes we get stuck, sometimes we get caught in coping mechanisms that allow us to perhaps dampen the effects of pain or trauma. And then ultimately the stuff that we can't address consciously in this life, that's the material that is unconsciously propelling us forward, that is unconsciously determining the decisions that we're making. And that's why I wanted to talk about this, because we all, each of us here, have the capacity for self-reflection. You wouldn't even be watching this right now if you weren't attuned to that. And if we are really to affect the kind of transformation on a collective consciousness level that we all wish for, we have to put in the uncomfortable, sometimes ugly, sometimes painful work of radical self-honesty and self-reflection, so that we are not perpetuating old familial karma, so that we're not perpetuating pains that were inflicted on us that we then unconsciously inflict on others, wherever that pain may have come from. So I'd like us to kind of dig into that. I have a process to take you guys through a little bit later in the webinar, but I wanted to start there because that's where my mind and heart has been in these last few weeks, as I'm looking at renewal, the transition of my mother, the renewal of myself and Tommy arriving in LA and looking for a new home, and the continuous practice of meditation that I'm doing, which allows me to start to see where I'm personally caught in unhelpful patterns, and to start to create on a daily and bi-daily basis this deep resonance and shift in frequency, which I'll also talk about later, just how important that is to unhook and to go into the spaciousness where our intelligence and soul exist, so that we are creating from that place. We're not creating from the old programs and the over focus on the materiality of the world. So I hope that makes sense. Sometimes I go into these esoteric places because to me that's where that joining of the sort of unseen life and the seen life, that pathway of bouncing easily between the two, that's where our freedom, our liberation lies. So yes, we'll discuss a little bit of that. So happy to see some of you already commenting on here. Oh, thank you, Lisa, for sharing that. Lovely. Hi, Sabina. Hi, Jen. Hi, Lorna. Love that you guys are here. Wonderful. Okay, so let's talk about the role of the mind and renewal of the mind. So I mentioned there, that the mind is, from the yogic perspective, the mind is a giant recording machine. At least one aspect of the mind is a giant recording machine. All of our experiences, all of our beliefs, all of our habits are there recorded in the subconscious mind, which is about 90% of the mind. The conscious mind is really only about 10%. So you can see that, of course, that 90% of subconscious mind is going to have an enormous impact on our decision making. So when we're talking about renewal of the mind, we're talking about a couple of different things. Getting present is number one, and I'm going to share a bunch of techniques on how to build more presence in your life. And one of those is a 40-day awareness challenge that I'm launching in a few days. And that is a way for you to bring a different element of awareness into your life every day for 40 days, which starts to clear the lens of your perception, so you begin to literally see with different eyes. When you see with different eyes, you start to repattern the brain. And then those deep patterns that get created in the subconscious mind that are driving us, those deep patterns start to shift. And when the inner world and the inner patterns of the mind start to shift, the outer reality starts to shift to reflect that. So then this process of renewal, both inside and out, is happening. Obviously, the most powerful way is to start to meditate. So I hope you guys have a meditation practice in your life. The simple practice of watching your breath is one of the ways that I always encourage people to use, because anyone can do it. The breath is tangible enough that it helps us to focus. When we move our focus onto the breath, we take our focus from the myriad of stresses and worries and anxieties and resentments and all of those things that are taking energy away from us. The interesting thing is that on this level of mind, as the yogis have spoken about so long, scientists are corroborating that when there is a certain powerful thought, particularly a thought that is happening on a pretty consistent basis, that thought is creating a certain neurology, and it's creating a certain chemical release in the brain. That chemical release then starts to form an emotion. So from that thought, then we start to build an emotion. Once an emotion gets engaged with a thought, now we have this really potent concoction that has the ability to really derail us if we are not being mindful, and take us on very deep detours away from the present moment. And I witnessed this in family members around the grief of my mother passing. I witnessed it myself late at night, not being able to sleep, my mind searching through every single little corridor of the past, searching every single little memory that I had of my mother, every occurrence that could have happened, and the intensity of that quest, which, late at night, when we're not so emotionally stable, it's easy to get off on those tangents and those corridors. And yes, there can be healing that comes from the moments of awareness as they come to light in that process, as long as we don't get so caught in the emotionality of the experience that we create a situation where it's hard to come back. And that's when people turn to substance to help to ease a certain internal stress that feels like it's unbearable in the moment. And so what we want to be doing is creating on a daily basis this idea of renewal of the mind, of looking at the things that disturb us, of looking at our resentments, of looking at where we're placing blame, at looking at where we're feeling guilt, of being courageous enough to go to uncomfortable places in order to understand what is driving that thought pattern, what is driving that emotion, what fear is there that I could be courageous enough to turn and look at, to dissolve, so that I can be free of that pattern. And as I mentioned before, and I'll keep saying, the most powerful practice is simple presence in the moment, learning how to stay present in the moment. Then we start to live our lives from the present and not from all of the past imprints and the past conditioning that lies in our mind, that comes from our parents and their unresolved traumas and their patterns. It comes from our culture's unresolved traumas and patterns. It comes from our experiences in this lifetime that we have not had the tools in the moment to cope with, or we coped with them in a certain way, but we haven't updated those tools. So renewal of the mind is all of these things. To me, it's the most exciting place to put my attention. And as I mentioned, it's not always the most comfortable place. But when we work on that level of the mind, then that starts to address the chemicals which create the emotional response, and that create the nervous system response that's holding so many of us in very high detrimental levels of stress. So we can learn to start to drop our brainwave state and our nervous system state into a much more balanced and calm place. When the brainwaves shift state, then we start to open into the kind of brilliance of the intuitive flow of mind. When the nervous system starts to slow down, then we start to open up into a deeper state of peace, and we stop being at the mercy of all of the stress hormones, which are constantly feeding off of the little fears in our life, which become bigger and bigger fears until we're literally running around chasing our tails, all in the hope of making things better, whereas really the true medicine comes from stillness and that self-reflection and self-connection. So that's a little bit about on the mental level of renewal. And perhaps the last thing I'll say on this here is that when we're looking to shift on that deep internal level, sometimes a shift of environment will help us. So this is where picking a time this year where you can go on retreat, you can do a training, you can take a long weekend away. These are opportunities for us to go into a new environment where we literally can start to create a new energy that's free from all of the outer reflections of our conditioned state. It is only a quick fix if you do it with the same consciousness that you're living in your life in and every day. But if you do it, say you go to a yoga training, say you go to a yoga retreat, say you go to be around elevated people, well, now you start to be in a more aware and present state where you can change your patterns and your energy significantly enough that you can really unhook and dissolve some of the bigger patterns that are driving you in your choices. So it takes two. It takes changing the outer environment and changing the inner environment. Now, I'm not saying that that's the only way, that you have to go away to do that, but I'm offering up that these moments of time out of the the ordinary requirements of our daily life, that these times offer us the opportunities to make the exponential growth that will help us to be who we really want to be, and help us to serve in deeper ways. So something to think about, and it kind of leads me into the next level that I want to talk about, which is energy. So we spoke about the mind, and now energy, the renewal of energy. Obviously, diet is very important. Cleansing, getting sugars out of the diet, getting caffeine out of the diet, and taking periods of time on a purely plant-based diet. That can help to create the kind of cellular renewal that allows us to break some of the addictive influence that food has on our life. So there's that. I have a cleanse coming up also in a couple of days for anybody who wants to kind of hop on and start to change your neurology, sensitivity, and behavior through adopting for 2 weeks a very different program of food. So that's open for those of you who want to explore that level of energy rejuvenation, which then also serves the mental rejuvenation. As soon as we make one sort of major change in one area of our life, that's all it takes. And again, this is what scientists are corroborating now as well. It just takes change in one area of our life to have the ripple effect on all the other areas of our life. So obviously, food is a very tangible way we can do that. Especially because so many of us are caught in addictive eating patterns, whether they're immediately observable or not. Most of us have that at some level. On the energy, rejuvenation of energy front, this is also being corroborated by science, but what the yogis have always said is that our innermost being is simply radiant light. And that radiant light, that is the essence of our energy and our life force. What happens is that our self-denial, our guilt, our patterns, our whatever it is, all of the things that we coat ourselves with, prevents that radiance of being from shining through. So we need practices that help to change the frequency of the magnetic field of our body. This is what Yogi Bhajan spoke about at great length in his classes, and helped to give us all an experience of in his kriyas, how we can shift the frequency that our energy is resonating in at. And when we do that, we shift the frequency that the mind is resonating at. We create coherence between the mind and the heart. When we create coherence between the mind and the heart, we start to open up to the wisdom of the heart. And I speak about this a lot because this has been my experience. And it's been it has offered the most potent transformations in my life. So when we talk about renewal of energy, we need to be embracing some practices on a regular basis that ignite the fire of our belly. We want to be practicing on a regular basis exercises, like I'm turning my arms here, any exercises that use the arms and move the arms through the auric field, that create a shifting in that frequency of the energetic field. Then we start to land in the place of pure potential. We move away from the place we inhabit that has been created through all of our conditioned habitual behavior, and we drop into these little moments of pure presence, these effervescent moments of pure presence, where we can experience unlimited potential. That's what the yoga practice and these kriya practices can awaken us to, this essence of pure potential. So remember that our identity, our deepest identity, is infinite. We have conditioned ourselves to see ourselves and each other in certain limiting ways, but we must remember that we are infinite beings. So when you get caught in some emotional state that is not serving you, take a moment to remember that. Call up a friend, reach out, go to a yoga class, somehow get connected to your energy body. Go beyond your form. This form, as I witnessed with my beloved mother, this form is only here for a short period of time. The love that is the soul, the potential within the soul, that never changes. We limit ourselves in this life. That is all. Nothing else is limiting us. We are limiting us. So find the place of spaciousness, and I'll lead us through a meditation at the end to invite that spaciousness. It's so simple. Anyone can do it. And that's kind of the place where we start to access true potentiality. So renewal of mind, renewal of energy, so important on this path as yogis, on this path as torchbearers of light. We need to hold this stance of coherence energetically, mentally, so that we can act from that place and not be disturbed by the drama that is being played out on the global scene at the moment, that is igniting people's subconscious fear. It's igniting people's old survival patterns. We have the tools as yogis to hold a different kind of space and to invite people into that space by doing the practice ourselves and by sharing it with others. So that's the role of mind, role of energy. Obviously on the energetic front, getting to a good down basics vinyasa or Iyengar class or Ashtanga class is going to really serve as well. Landing back in LA, I'm reminded of the flightiness of so many of us. We become doers, we become invested in doing, and we're running around and we're lacking the essential ingredient that allows us to act consciously, and that is presence. If we're on the move, it's very hard to hold a deep state of presence. I think the reason that vinyasa classes, hot yoga classes, Ashtanga, Iyengar are so prevalent these days, that they're so much in demand, is because they are such beautiful ways for us to get embodied through the asana practice, through our breath, to come out of a state of being fractured and come into a state of wholeness. And that's really the journey of yoga, of union, to come to a place of wholeness where we are embodied and we're present and aware, embodied souls. Wow. Isn't that exciting? Walking around, meeting others who are present, aware, embodied. Think about what's the energetic state that we all share when we're like that. It's love, isn't it? It's love. It's that kind of love that it doesn't matter who's in front of you. You're experiencing this fellowship of love. Wow, here we all are, these extraordinary beings of light, and we're having this human experience. And we all have desires and wants and creative things that we want to manifest, and this we're chasing, that we're chasing. But ultimately, and I'm seeing so many hearts come up on the screen, yes, we're just these beings of love. And it doesn't matter. We're so achievement-oriented in particularly the United States, but the Western world. And yet the greatest achievement that all of us can have is to hold a state of love, no matter whom we're in contact with, and to radiate that and affect change through holding that space And obviously, so much of holding that space is learning to come into presence and learning to be able to look at the times within ourselves where we get taken away from that joy and that love. And to be able to, one by one, layer by layer, address those aspects of us that keep us from being 100% bright light, radiant, luminous. So that's fun work, isn't it? And if we can set aside the time every morning when we wake up to just drop inside and experience the vastness of the soul, of ourself, of our being, and the radiance of love, the force of love that unites us all, then you know that the rest of your day is going to be carried by that same frequency of love. Scientists are showing it takes only 3 minutes to change from an incoherent brain to a coherent brain. Incoherent brain means that we are operating in a very limited capacity that is purely being driven by actions of the past. A coherent brain is operating in the infinite possibility of the present moment. And that's the place where miracles are happening all the time. And that's the place that is available to each of us every moment. And I'm seeing so many of those hearts fly by as I'm speaking. So I know you guys are getting this. And I know that you're all warriors in this sense. And we're a community here of people who believe in this possibility. And the yoga tradition is here to remind us, whenever you fall out of step, pick up a book, tune in to the teachings of the masters. It doesn't matter which lineage, which tradition, the truth is the truth. And when we hear the truth, we recognize it, we feel it. There's a resonance in our being that knows it. And then that forms as a reminder when we get stuck in our small self, where we forget, where we think we're this limited being, where we get caught up in our age, in our inability, in our inadequacy, and this and that. None of that matters ultimately. The only thing that matters is to stay in this radiant presence of love. So, wow. Is all I can say to that. Yogi Bhajan and Guru Nanak said it so well. Wahe Guru. Wow. The ecstasy of being in the bright, luminous state of the soul. Wahe Guru. Wow. Love it. So I think I spoke about most of those things that I was to speak about. So in a moment, I'm going to take some questions. We'll do a meditation first, and I'm going to take you through a process of personal inventory. It's really borrowed a little bit from the 4th step of AA, because I think when we're talking about renewal of the brain and the clearing out of the subconscious patterns that we pass generation to generation to generation, or the subconscious patterns that are creating a life that we don't want to be living. We want to be able to actually do a really fierce inventory of all the ways that we're holding resentment, we're blaming others, we are in denial, where we are holding a personal grudge, or still living from a place of trauma, where we've been traumatized in the past. And many of us have experienced that trauma in the first years of our life, where we were helpless to do anything about it but create whatever coping mechanism allowed us to get here to this point. This idea of taking a fierce inventory, radically honest inventory in our life, is about taking personal responsibility to the deepest place that we know how. And that's the way we start to break free of some of this conditioned old beliefs and behaviors. Ideally, if we are truly in a place of renewal, then we will, on a daily basis, when something comes into our field of awareness that we think that we know, we have to be in a process of inquiry. Why do I believe that? And this is especially important when it comes to some of the beliefs that are passed down through the family and ancestry lineage. We have to be prepared to change our mind, so to speak, to not be beholden to a certain belief because it worked for us back then, but to be courageous enough to look at that belief and from all different perspectives and decide, is this really still working for me? Does this belief reflect that luminosity and love of my soul? Is this belief in harmony with the way that I want to live and interact with the world? Is this belief in harmony with what I'm actually projecting to the world? So we start to look at the beliefs that are forming or have formed these neurological patterns, and then the behaviors that are resulting as a consequence of them. So here's the process, right? Are you ready? We're going to take the following kind of steps. Good. I'm just going to pop in here for a moment. So, Doreen, you're saying, I understand why I felt like a failure not passing the test today, just like when I was young. Thank you. Yeah, right? If that, so many people. When I lead my 200-hour teacher training and we have a written exam towards the end, or exam, I hate that word, whatever the word is, an assessment, it freaks people out. Because so many of us have this trauma from our childhood of cramming information into our brains to try to pass a test, which we then forget. And it just now we have this belief in ourselves and in our capacities that brings up all kinds of worry. And then those coping mechanisms from our youth come up, and here we are in our, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever it may be, and we're in a process of assessment, and we're caught in those old patterns of not feeling adequate, or not trusting ourselves to know the information, or not trusting ourselves to study in the way that we need to. All those ways that we get caught. So, okay, here's the steps. So step number 1. I want you to take a personal inventory of all known trauma, personal grudges, resentments, anger, and other toxic emotions. So take some time tonight, write down, or in the next few days, in a time that feels right to you, just make an inventory. What are you caught up in the moment? Like, what's driving your life? What grudges are eating up your energy? Resentments eating up your energy? What underlying anger is expressing out sideways with your family because it's not being addressed or looked at? And perhaps what trauma in your past do you know you haven't yet fully faced, so that you can transform the effects of that karma, of that trauma, sorry. So some of you may want to do this work with the help of another, somebody in your life that you feel safe with, somebody that you feel has the clarity and presence to hold space for you. Could be a friend, could be a therapist, could be a counselor, could be a coach, any number of things, but somebody in your life that you feel you could safely go through a fierce inventory with. It really helps when you can share, and it really creates true intimacy when you are willing to reveal what you perceive as the shadows of your life. Then they really are brought into the light. And if you do this with somebody else, you'll see that what they perceive as real shadows are not such shadows after all. And when witnessed by another who is holding space lovingly, understanding that we're all human, we've all made mistakes, we've all done things that we didn't want to do, we've all had things occur to us that we didn't want to happen, that this is part of the human condition. When we can hold space for one another in this way and allow the imperfection, understanding the perfection underneath of the soul, then true healing can happen. If we want to hold this space as healers, as radiant emitters of light, this level of fierce personal inventory has to happen so that we're not limiting ourselves. So that's number one, make your inventory. Number two, look at what the belief is that underlies each one of these. What's the belief that underlies each one of these emotional experiences? And then after that, what's the fear that underlies it, that is informing each one of these emotional and neurological and conditioned behaviors? And then very important here, examine your role in the situations that you've listed. Examine your role in the situations that you've listed. Remember that wonderful old saying, I don't know where it comes from, but resentment is the cup of poison that you pour for another but drink yourself. And you may find that a lot of the ways that we're self-limiting is through our resentments and our blames and our victimization of ourselves, and through buying into the coping mechanisms that served us once, and being unwilling or afraid to let those go for fear of what may be underneath or how to move forward from there. That's why we do this with the witness of another soul that we trust, that can hold space and encourage us through that place so that we truly heal and liberate ourselves. The yogis say over and over again, pain is the currency of change. Pain is the access point to liberation. Ultimately, the suffering, we're only suffering until we're willing to let go of that suffering, to work it out, to work it through, and find the deep level of liberation that lies underneath. So examining your role in each situation and take the necessary steps to release these problems. What are the necessary steps? Is there an amends that you need to make to somebody? Is it just speaking it through with somebody? Is there a ritual you can go through that can help you to release certain emotions? Writing them down, burning them, offering them into the fire, offering them into the river. Something you can do physically that will help to confirm and affirm your willingness to release yourself from that which has been holding hostage your energy on a certain level, your emotions on a certain level, your potential on a certain level. So I'm just going to read through these again so you have them. So making a personal inventory of all known trauma, personal grudges, resentment, anger, and other toxic emotions. What's the belief that underlies each of these? What's the fear that underlies each of these? And examine your role in each situation that you listed. Take necessary steps to release these problems. Maybe sharing with a therapist any of the rituals, making amends. And then lastly here, two last things. And most important really, this is the starting a daily meditation practice if you don't have it already. This is where you can begin to observe the patterns of thought which are ruling your life, because as you sit the patterns start to come, they start to come, and you start to see the thoughts that are more sticky to you, that have a charge to them, that have an emotion attached to them. And you can start to learn to create a little distance. You observe the thought. Wow, you realize that got an emotional response. Now you're unsettled. Now you don't want to sit anymore. Now you feel compelled to some kind of action. Oh wait, it's just a thought. It's just an emotion. I don't have to move. I can stay right here, right now. I can move into my spaciousness. I can remember that I'm a soul, that I'm a brilliant beam of light, that within me lies infinite potential. And this is the process we go through of meditation. When you catch yourself getting stuck and you're wanting to meditate, go into a place of gratitude. Start to think about all the things that you are grateful for, that are in your life, that sustain you, that serve you. Start to think about those that you really love, that are there for you in any way that may be required of them. Start to think about those that you love. When we do this, we're working on what the scientists call the physicists, really, you could say, the quantum physicists that are matching this yogic information so beautifully. But they call these are high frequency emotions. These are the emotions that lift, that elevate us. Whereas the fears, the anxieties, the angers, the self-doubts, those are the energies, the frequencies that are lower, that draw us down, that suck the effervescence from us. So in the meditative process, we get to observe that process. We get to cultivate these refined frequency emotions that then start to attract like emotion to us. And then, so that's it. So that was the last one. Consciously cultivating these positive emotions. Meditation and consciously cultivating these positive emotions. So that's your homework on that front. So I want to lead us through a little bit of a sort of spacious awareness meditation, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. Let's just take a moment and close our eyes. First, connect down to whatever it is that you are sitting on. Just ground for a moment. Feel your sit bones, sense the length of your spine. Draw your chin slightly in, so you're coming to a fully upright place. And then start to tune into a spaciousness around the brain. When you close your eyes and you tune in, can you sense that it's like you're going into infinite space? Feel that spaciousness. That's where we move from a world of definition into a world of infinite possibility. It's through the spaciousness. And then feel that same spaciousness in your throat, through your neck. And then drop your awareness to your heart center. First, you'll sense the beating of your heart. And then sense that same vast spaciousness. Like a radiance of energy from your heart center. And bring your awareness down to the navel area. And just sense a spaciousness through the navel. A radiance from that place of power. And then bring your awareness down to the pelvic bowl and sense a spaciousness through your pelvis, the infinite space within the pelvis. And then become aware of the vastness of space in the room around you. And then beyond the room, as though you're widening out now your sphere of awareness into the cosmos itself. Like you're a star in the world of stars, sensing the radiance of all the planets. And then bring your attention back to your heart center, but still from that place of sensing the spaciousness, a pure consciousness, pure awareness. And in this place here, bless your life. Gratitude for this body you inhabit, for your life as you know it, for the infinite potential that lies within. You bless your challenges, as that's the resistance that helps us to grow. You bless your soul, the radiance of the witness that is operating through your body. You bless your past, all the experiences that have led to this very moment in time, you bless them. You bless that which is yet to come. You bless that this moment in time is drawing towards you, that this awareness of your infinite potential is drawing towards you. And you bless the divine within you. And give thanks for this life. And come back to the beating of your heart. Feel the surface of your skin. And then when you're ready, you gently open your eyes again. Hello, beautiful people. Wow, Wahe Guru. We are this meat suit, as Guru Singh likes to say. And yet, we are this infinite potential as well. Remember that we create from the place that we resonate with. We create by being very specific about where we choose to place our attention. You are a powerful creator. You have the capacity to be so brilliant, so impactful, so radiant, and to lead. Let's remember that. And when you look in somebody else's eyes, see that capacity in them. See that deep love that connects us all. When you drop the pain, when you drop the attachment to suffering, when you drop the karmic ideas about who you are, why you are, when you stop hiding, there you are in your radiant truth. And I wish that for you. I wish that for us as a community, that we can hold this space, that we can lead the way through the world and the collective consciousness right now, that we can raise this collective consciousness. So, thank you. I'm going to peek out and see if any of you have any questions for me. Oh, you guys are amazing. I love you. Ong Namo Gurudev Namo. Yes. Oh, and so I guess I did forget to tell you of the different things that I have coming up, didn't I? So, for those of you who want to work on this level of awareness, I am offering my 40 Days to Greater Awareness free email course. We start on the 22nd. We're going to put a link up. You click on the link, you enter your email, and we'll send you an email a day. And each day, they're short, so it's not going to be, like, oh God, I got a whole essay to read. No, it'll be a prompt for the day, a focus for you that will help to clear away all of the different facets of the way that you perceive life. And then once a week, I'll be doing a chat like this within our private page, which you'll be invited to, our private group. And so we can share what it's been like to focus on these different things for that week. And so we'll be in community, and we'll be in a process together of creating deeper levels of awareness and seeing how we can shift and refine the way that we are interacting with ourselves and others in the world through developing more awareness. The other thing that is starting also this weekend, for those of you who want to cleanse, there's a cleanse journey. It's a 14-day plant-based diet for 4 days, 6 days of liquid food, hot soups if you're in a cold climate, or cold soups if you're in a warm climate, and then another 4 days where you kind of reintroduce foods afterwards. Wonderful way to rejuvenate inside and out if that calls to you in this moment. And then I also have a meditation course on Yoga Glow. It takes you from 5-minute awareness practices to 10-minute meditations to 15-minute meditations. That's designed as a 40-day practice as well. So you can either start that now if you'd like to, or we can all do it as a group, which I will be doing anyway. We'll be doing it as a group after the 40 days of greater awareness. So then we go from that into another pretty simple 40-day program for those of you who are on board. What I like about this, why I'm doing this, is because together we are strong. When we do this kind of practice together, we learn from each other. We support a certain vibrational frequency, and we are that living example of what's possible when we live with awareness, when we really practice what we preach. So there's that. And then for those of you who want to take any of those things deeper, I have some teacher trainings. I have 2 6-day modules. You don't have to be a teacher to do these. You can just be somebody who's interested. But there's a week-long or 6 days on prana and pranayama, so understanding energy from the yogic perspective and how to manage it and balance it through pranayama techniques. And then there's meditation in the mind, so understanding the mind from the yogic perspective, as well as very strong influences from the scientific field, and meditation practices to serve you in your life, and really an opportunity to dig into your mind in a very safe and inspired environment. So that's happening in California in April at the Mount Madonna Center, for those of you who are interested. And then later in the year at the Himalayan Institute, I have 2 more modules, one on awareness and lifestyle, so building on the awareness 40-day program, and how to really live this yogic lifestyle. And the other one's on Kriya, and understanding Kriyas, Kriya, flow, and the art of teaching, how to get into the state of flow in your life through the practice of Kriya. So all these things coming up. Love you to join in any way that feels relevant and useful to you in your life. And please share with others if you feel like it could be helpful to them. So I'm going to pop in and see what you may have put here. So Sarah, you're saying, Sarah Agras, you're saying you've been practicing Kundalini Yoga with me through Yoga Glow for 57 days. Yes! And I'm noticing that my moon cycle has been completely erratic. Is this common? Also, it is changing my life. Thank you, Satnam. Yeah, well, the moment you start to work with energy and your mind in the way that you do in Kundalini Yoga, your external world is going to start to shift to reflect your internal world. You'll go into basically a giant detox process, physically, mentally, emotionally. So that's normal. Feel free to email me with any specifics that come up. Just info@kiamiller.com. Happy to help. And also be connected through my Radiant Body Yoga group page. So that's a private page, but any of you guys can request to join. We'll have you join. And then you can ask these questions and you can get perspectives, not just from me, but others who are practicing and involved and or teaching Kundalini Yoga that can share their experience. And as for the menstrual cycle, it just depends on what kind of Kriyas you're doing. So please do just drop me an email on that. Okay, so let's see any other questions that I'm going down to the bottom again and just going to scroll my way up. Good. So we have the link there for the Radiant Body Mount Madonna immersions. What is a good practice if you're an empathic person to protect your heart from the harshness of the world while still remaining open? From Amanda McCall. Wow, great question. For those of us who are empaths, and I would say most of you, if not all of you who are watching, are very empathic. We're drawn to this path when we're empathic because the power in our empathy is that we're able to feel and sense where somebody else is at on their energetic, emotional level, and we can respond to them and help them from that place. The best practices to do are auric strengtheners. Our aura is the yogic term for the magnetic field that surrounds us. So to have an intention to hold that magnetic field strong, visualize a light around your body, like the shape of an egg that's radiant, and that all negativity coming towards you bounces straight back to the source of all. So we're not sending it back to the same person, we're sending it to the source of all. So we create that protective shield around us. And then if you can hold space neutrally when you're around people who are responding in erratic ways, then you're less likely to take on. What happens is when we imagine ourselves in the position that person is in, we embody the energy at a different level. If we can hold space neutrally, perceive what's happening without personally identifying with it, then we're able to keep ourselves and our energy more clear. So I hope that makes sense. Definitely do a visualization, surround yourself with light, ask that any negativity bounce straight back toward the source. Do practices that expand and open up the energy of the heart and the magnetic field. Any of the Kundalini arm exercises are great for that. Maybe even just 3 minutes of ego eradicator, hands are like so, at 60 degrees. And then at the end of 3 minutes, inhale, bring them together, and then exhale down. So that's another way to protect yourself. Great question. Okay, I'm digging in. Writing small takes me a moment. Yay, Jean Foot. Thank you. I used to practice Kundalini and I lost it over the last year, and tonight you brought me back. Yay! So glad. Wonderful. Great. Some of you looking forward to 40 days of greater awareness. Beautiful. Oh, Joanna is saying, how do you process a joke directed at you of your old age by a coworker and have love for them? Oh, well, you just, you have to, well, one way I would suggest is to see if you can identify the place within yourself that is identifying as old, and recognize yourself as an eternal spirit, and that this body will age and this body will deteriorate. And again, as I witnessed with my mother, this body too shall be shed. And what's important is the light of your soul, and that you know who you are and what you're capable of. And then those jokes, and I'm British, the sarcasm. People thrive on sarcasm in England, and it can be biting and cutting, because just like jokes, it's used often to express what is not usually expressed. And so, you know, you can either grow a thick skin, or you can just develop the quality and the capacity to trust in you knowing who you are and how you feel in your being, so that there's no longer a hook for you there, if that makes sense. So, great question. Oh, you guys are so sweet. I'm loving all your comments here, and I'm going to read through all these sweet ones later. I'm just seeing if there's any other questions. So what I'm going to say is, if you have a question and you're still on, just pop it down right now and I'll answer it. Otherwise, we'll call it quit. Okay, so Simone, you're saying you have a question around anger. I've worked for years on letting go of anger toward my sister. I really felt genuine forgiveness, but I still felt crushed by her bullying over my life. The other day, I gave myself permission to admit I'm angry and didn't try to moderate it. And amazingly, I felt better both physically. I can't see the rest of it. It's very interesting, isn't it? But as you said, you've been working on forgiveness, and you chose to really feel the emotion the other day. And in a sense, that's you being brave and courageous enough to not block it anymore, but to acknowledge it. And something has power over us as long as we are not acknowledging it. The moment we acknowledge that it's there, then we start to release the power that emotion has over us. And then we can start to take more self-responsibility for understanding why we've held on to it, and what fear or what belief is underlying that, and look at ways to really dissolve and let it go. So I just want to say congratulations on being courageous enough to sit in it and to allow the feeling to express through you, because that's the beginning of full transformation. So congratulations. So, Lorna, you're saying, how can I change my self-defeating thoughts to initiate positive thoughts? Wow, what a great question. So, well, the first one, which you're already onto, is the awareness that you're having a self-defeating thought. And then it's having a little bit of that fire inside you that says, wait, I don't have to think that thought. There's the practice in yoga of pratipakshibhavanam, of thinking the opposite. Okay, it's not that I want to like act and try to bat away those self-negating thoughts. No, I witness it. I'm aware of it. But remember that your true power lies in where you place your attention. So you have the choice. Am I going to focus on that self-negating thought, or am I going to turn my attention onto something more empowering and to start to direct myself in that way? And that's perhaps the most simple yet the most powerful process that I could share with you. If I catch myself thinking negatively about myself or another, it's like, oh wait, wow, Zzz. I'm going to focus on this. This brings me joy. This reflects who I am. So that process, I think, is really puts us on the road to true transformation. We are what we think. We are where we place our attention. So let's place it in ways that are fruitful for us, in ways that serve us, in ways that help us to stay in that kind of radiance of our soul. Great question. Stephanie, you're saying, recently I was in a class and the Kriya to release anger was really hard. Should I continue to practice that to release this? Great question. If you felt a lot of emotion release in that class around anger, or you felt provoked by it, yes, sure, do it some more. And you may find that you get deeper by doing it some more. So yeah, try that out. Sometimes the emotion is there in that moment when we practice the Kriya, and then it dissolves. But if you have a sense that maybe there's something more there, by all means, go ahead, dig into an anger Kriya and see what can come from it. This is deep work, and I know that you're committed to deep work, as I know you personally, so wonderful. I think that's a good choice. Let me know how it goes. Gurujot Singh, I want to go to do the cleanse, but I cannot digest raw veggies. Can I do it with cooked veggies? Yes, you can do the whole thing cooked. And I love that. Personally, except in a very warm spring, early fall, when I cleanse, I only... at this time of year, I would only do it with warm soups, warm veggies. Some smoothies is fine, but not raw juices or raw veggies. So yeah, gently braise, cook everything, and yet keep it super, super clean, and allow your body to reset that way. I've actually had one of my most powerful cleansing experiences on warm soups, veggie broths, and smoothies. So yay, you can do it. And I encourage you to do it. Maria, you're saying being pregnant? Oh, yay, Maria. It's you. I've been seeing your pictures with you and your glorious pregnant belly. You can't do much of the belly powerful exercises. Any exercises to ignite and keep my belly power during this time in my life? Well, you know, you have your own kind of power in your belly right now. So the recommended practices while pregnant really revolve around walking a lot. Walking, chanting, breathing deeply, singing, you know, connecting with that soul, self-love, giving yourself lots of rest time, treating yourself like a true, you know, queen. Those are really the recommended practices. After you give birth, give it a little time for healing, and then you could start to do some more practices that slowly draw and regenerate the energy in the navel, because at the moment you have this giant force in there. Then after you've given birth, there'll be a sense of a vacuum which needs to heal on its own for a little while, and then you'll restart some practices, some gentle practices to begin to reform that solar plexus energy of your own, if that makes sense. So while you're pregnant, just focus on your love and walking and being gentle with yourself. Yay, can't wait to meet this little being. So, yay, I think that's all of your questions for now. So thank you guys so much for joining me this evening. It warms my heart to know that you're all out there and to see your names come up and to feel our connection here through the ethers, which is the same connection when we close our eyes and we go into spaciousness. We're present with all the beings that we love, who are here or not here. And in that giant field of awareness, we can feel the resonance where the true love within us exists, where we connect with each other and where we support each other. So I thank you all for being here. I send you all my love, and I really look forward to connecting with you this 2018, whether it's on the 40 Days to Greater Awareness course, the Cleanse course, the meditation course on Yoga Glow, or any of the trainings, which, as I mentioned, even though you can do them as part of a 200-hour, 300-hour, they're really aimed at personal development, at shared community experiences where we step out of our life and we step into a new environment where we get to recreate ourselves, to re-envision ourselves in our life, and to repattern ourselves at a deep level. So thank you all, sending you love and blessings, and we'll connect again soon. Sat Nam.